There's a certain kind of person who can ruin your mood without even being in the room. You leave a conversation with them and start replaying everything they said. Maybe they criticized you in front of other people. Maybe they constantly turn small issues into arguments. Maybe they make everything about themselves, twist your words, or somehow leave you feeling guilty for things that weren't yours to carry. And the frustrating part is that you know you shouldn't let them get to you, yet they do. You think about them driving home. You think about them while you're working. Sometimes you even think about what you should have said hours after the conversation ended. That kind of person can take up a surprising amount of space in your mind. The Stoics understood this problem remarkably well. Marcus Aurelius began one of his morning reflections by preparing himself to meet difficult people he described as selfish, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, and unpleasant. His answer wasn't to become bitter or to spend the day fighting them. He reminded himself that other people's behavior did not have to corrupt his own character. That idea is easy to read. Living it is harder, because when someone treats you badly, your first instinct is usually to make them understand. You want them to see what they did. You want them to admit they were wrong. You want the apology. You want justice. And sometimes you spend so much energy trying to get those things that the difficult person ends up controlling your life without even realizing it. That's where Stoicism asks you to stop. Not because bad behavior should be tolerated, not because you should pretend everything is fine, but because there is a difference between dealing with someone's behavior and allowing their behavior to become your behavior. That's a distinction worth holding on to. Suppose someone at work constantly tries to undermine you. You could spend every morning wondering what they're going to say next. You could watch every expression on their face. You could prepare imaginary arguments in the car before you even walk into the office. Or you could come prepared to do your job well, speak clearly, document what actually happens, and refuse to let their personality determine yours. The situation may still be unpleasant, but you've stopped feeding it. This is close to the heart of Stoic ethics. Epictetus placed enormous importance on self-management, personal freedom, and the way we handle our impressions of the world around us. Someone behaves badly. That's an event. Your mind immediately says, they don't respect me. They always do this. I can't stand them. Now you've added judgment to the event. That doesn't mean your judgment is always wrong. It means you should examine it before you act on it. A toxic person's greatest advantage over you isn't necessarily their words. It's your reaction to their words. They say something cruel. You lose your temper. They provoke you again. You spend the evening thinking about it. They've gone home. You're still fighting. That's the trap. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly brought himself back to the same question. What is actually his responsibility? What kind of response is consistent with reason and character? His writings emphasize focusing on one's own actions rather than becoming consumed by what other people say or do. That doesn't mean becoming passive. There are moments when you need to speak up. There are moments when you need to say no. There are situations where the healthiest decision is to create distance from someone. Stoicism does not require you to stand next to the fire just to prove you're calm. Marcus himself wrote about remaining on guard around someone while quietly getting out of their way rather than treating them as an enemy. That's a subtle idea. You can protect yourself without becoming consumed by hatred. You can recognize that someone is harmful without spending your life wishing them harm. You can walk away without turning the person into the main character of your story. And that matters because resentment has a strange way of keeping people connected. You think you're punishing someone by staying angry, but they may not even know you're still thinking about them. You're carrying the weight. They're living their life. At some point, you have to ask yourself whether holding on to that anger is actually helping you. The Stoics had a demanding view of this. They believed human beings were naturally connected and meant to cooperate, even though individuals could act badly. Marcus described other people as part of the same human community and used that idea to resist hatred. That doesn't mean everyone deserves unlimited access to you. It means you don't have to become cruel simply because someone else is. That's where real self-control begins. A difficult person tests your character because they make it tempting to abandon the very qualities you're trying to build. Patience becomes difficult. Kindness becomes difficult. Self-control becomes difficult. And yet, those are exactly the moments when those qualities matter most. Anyone can be calm when everyone agrees with them. The real test comes when someone presses the wrong button, when someone interrupts you, when you're misunderstood, when you're insulted, when you're treated unfairly. That's the moment when Stoicism stops being a quote on your phone and becomes something you either practice or don't. The question isn't, how do I make this person behave? You may not be able to. The better question is, how do I deal with this person without becoming someone I don't respect? That question takes the power back. And once you start asking it, you begin to see toxic people differently, not as people you must defeat, but as situations that reveal how much control you actually have over yourself. There's another reason toxic people can be so difficult. They often trigger something that already exists inside us. Maybe you have a strong need to be understood. Maybe criticism gets under your skin because you're already questioning yourself. Maybe being ignored makes you feel unimportant. Maybe confrontation scares you, so you stay quiet until resentment builds and eventually explodes. The person in front of you may be difficult, but the reaction inside you can tell an even deeper story. This is one reason Epictetus placed so much emphasis on the proper use of impressions. You receive an experience, your mind forms an interpretation, and then you choose whether to give that interpretation your assent. That process happens fast. Someone sends you a cold text. Your mind supplies the meaning, they're mad at me. I must have done something. They're pulling away. 5 minutes later, you're anxious, but you don't actually know what happened. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they're having a terrible day. Maybe they didn't even notice the message sounded cold. Your mind hates empty space. It fills it. And when you're already emotionally activated, it usually fills it with the worst explanation. Toxic people can exploit this because they often create confusion. They say one thing today and another tomorrow. They blame you for something they did. They shift the conversation whenever you're trying to resolve an issue. You start questioning your own judgment. This is where Stoic discipline becomes useful. Slow down. Separate what you know from what you're assuming. What did they actually say? What did they actually do? What part is your interpretation? What part can you influence? And what part belongs entirely to them? That separation can prevent a lot of unnecessary suffering. But there's a second principle that matters just as much. Stop trying to win every interaction. A toxic person may invite you into endless arguments. You explain. They deny. You explain again. They change the subject. You defend yourself. They find something else. Suddenly an hour has disappeared. You haven't communicated. You've entered a contest. And that's a contest Stoicism gives you permission to leave. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly encouraged himself to stop being distracted by the conduct and opinions of other people and to focus on whether his own actions were just and disciplined. Sometimes the strongest response is brief. I don't agree. That's not how I see it. I'm willing to discuss the issue, but not this way. I'll think about that. I need some space before we continue this conversation. None of those responses are dramatic. That's the point. You don't need to match someone's intensity to prove that you're strong. A person shouting doesn't make you wiser by shouting louder. A person being disrespectful doesn't require you to return the disrespect. You can be firm without being cruel. That's one of the most useful corrections to the popular idea of Stoicism. Being Stoic does not mean silently accepting everything. It means choosing your response instead of surrendering it to impulse. There are times when boundaries are the reasonable response. If someone repeatedly lies to you, you don't owe them endless trust. If someone constantly insults you, you don't have to keep putting yourself in situations where that happens. If a relationship continually damages your peace, distance can be wiser than another 100 arguments. The Stoics valued human connection, cooperation, and concern for others, but that did not require surrendering your own judgment or moral agency. Epictetus's philosophy combines concern for others with self-management and personal freedom. That's an important balance. Compassion without boundaries becomes self-neglect. Boundaries without compassion can become bitterness. Stoicism aims at something harder, clear judgment. You see the person as they are. You don't need to hate them. You don't need to fix them. You don't need to keep them close. You simply decide what your role is. Maybe it's to communicate. Maybe it's to set a boundary. Maybe it's to help. Maybe it's to leave. And once you've made that decision, you stop rehearsing the same argument in your head. This is where many people get stuck. The interaction ends, but the mental version continues. You replay their words. You think of what you should have said. You imagine finally proving your point. 3 hours later, you're still arguing with somebody who's not even there. Why? Because part of you still wants control. You want to rewrite the conversation, but the conversation is already over. The Stoic response is not to pretend it didn't matter. Learn from it. Ask what you could have done differently. Then close the file. You don't need to reopen the same case every night. There is also a deeper lesson here about approval. A toxic person can become powerful when you desperately need them to validate you. If you need their respect, their apology, their friendship, or their approval before you can feel secure, they have access to your emotions. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly warned himself against becoming dependent on reputation and the opinions of others. He urged himself to focus on living well rather than managing how he appeared to everyone else. That doesn't mean opinions never matter. They can. Feedback can be useful. Your relationships matter, but your entire sense of worth cannot rest on another person's judgment. Otherwise, every criticism becomes a crisis. Every disagreement becomes a threat. Every person who dislikes you becomes a problem you feel obligated to solve. You'll never finish. There will always be someone who misunderstands you, someone who doesn't like you, someone who thinks you're doing life wrong. You don't have to defeat all of them. You have to know what you're standing for. That's why the Stoics kept returning to character. When you're clear about the kind of person you're trying to become, other people's behavior becomes easier to navigate. You don't have to ask, how can I make them respect me? You can ask, how do I remain worthy of my own respect? Those are completely different questions, and one of them gives you your freedom back. Eventually, the goal isn't to become someone who never encounters toxic people. That's impossible. You'll meet them at work, in friendships, in families, online. Sometimes they'll have authority over you. Sometimes they'll be people you trusted. Sometimes you won't be able to leave the situation immediately. Life doesn't offer perfect environments, so the real skill is learning how to stay yourself when the environment isn't easy. That starts with one habit. Don't give an immediate reaction to every emotional trigger. Give yourself a beat. You don't need to answer every text immediately. You don't need to respond to every insult. You don't need to defend every decision. You don't need to correct every misunderstanding. Ask yourself whether a response will actually improve the situation. If it will, respond thoughtfully. If it won't, silence may be the wiser choice. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly encouraged himself to act according to reason and virtue, rather than being pulled around by the behavior of other people. The second habit is to keep your attention on your own behavior. This sounds simple until you're dealing with someone difficult. You start thinking about what they're doing, then why they're doing it, then what they might do next. Soon, your entire mental life revolves around them. Pull yourself back. What are you doing? Are you being fair? Are you communicating clearly? Are you keeping your boundaries? Are you acting with self-respect? Those are questions you can answer. Their motives may remain a mystery. You don't need to solve every mystery. The third habit is to stop confusing forgiveness with access. You can forgive someone and still keep your distance. You can wish someone well and still say no. You can understand why a person behaves badly without volunteering to be their target. That is not hatred. That's judgment, and sometimes judgment means recognizing that a relationship needs to change. The Stoics weren't interested in winning approval by tolerating everything. They were interested in living according to reason, virtue, and what was appropriate to the situation. Then there's the part nobody likes hearing. Sometimes the toxic person isn't the stranger you're angry with. Sometimes the pattern you keep repeating is partly yours. You keep giving another person chances when their behavior has already given you enough information. You keep expecting someone to become different while ignoring who they consistently are. You keep explaining your boundaries but never enforcing them. You keep telling yourself you're staying calm when you're actually avoiding a necessary conversation. Stoic thinking requires honesty, not just with other people, with yourself. Ask what you're tolerating. Ask why. Are you afraid of being alone? Are you afraid of disappointing someone? Are you worried about what people will think? Are you hoping they'll finally become the person you wanted them to be? Sometimes peace requires accepting that a relationship is not what you hoped it would become. That can hurt, but clarity hurts once. Confusion can hurt every day. Marcus Aurelius also reminded himself of something that can feel almost uncomfortable in its simplicity. Other people are still human beings, shaped by their own judgments, ignorance, habits, and desires. His response was not to excuse wrongdoing, but to resist becoming consumed by hatred. That may be the hardest lesson. You don't have to hate someone to protect yourself from them. You don't have to understand everything about them. You don't even need them to agree that they've hurt you. Sometimes the healthiest ending is simply knowing enough. Enough to step back. Enough to stop arguing. Enough to stop checking. Enough to stop waiting for the apology. Enough to stop letting their behavior occupy your mind. Because there's a difference between keeping someone out of your house and keeping them in your head. The first may be a boundary. The second is a prison. And that brings us to the real Stoic question. What kind of person are you becoming through all of this? Because toxic people can teach you something, even when you wish you had never met them. They can show you where your boundaries are weak. They can reveal how badly you seek approval. They can expose your temper. They can teach you the cost of reacting without thinking. They can force you to decide what you actually value. That doesn't make their behavior good. It means you can refuse to let a bad experience produce nothing but bitterness. You can take the lesson and leave the poison behind. The next time someone tries to pull you into their chaos, pause. Look at what is actually happening. Decide what belongs to you. Say what needs to be said. Set the boundary if one is needed. Walk away when walking away is wiser. And then, go live your life. Don't spend the rest of the day carrying a conversation that ended 10 minutes ago. Don't let another person's personality become the weather inside your own mind. You may not be able to control who enters your life. You may not be able to control what they say. You may not be able to control whether they change, but you can practice controlling what you give them. Your attention, your words, your choices, your character. That's the part they don't get to own. And perhaps that's the most practical lesson Stoicism offers when you're dealing with difficult people. You don't defeat a toxic person by becoming better at hurting them. You defeat their influence by refusing to become someone you don't respect because of them. That is a much harder victory, and a much more valuable one.